elite know that Israel will enslave the whole world. Giving all praise to Yahweh Shem of Shad Shem Kakodash. I don't know where I'm going to go with this. I don't know how long this is going to be. This may be a short video, maybe a long video. Let's see where the spirit takes me. Anyway, I spoke about this particular page in the past many a times, which is the Bible Hub. Like if I wanted to go to the Blue Letter and take a precept, I'll go to Google or I'll go directly to Bible Hub and put the precept in, go to commentary. Normally I go to, the first one I look for is the Cambridge Bible for schools and colleges. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm gonna do? Let me take this, let me go a little deeper into this. Bear me for a minute.
We shall overcome, vote. You know, wherever we go in our travel, we're going to face trials and tribulations. That's just the fact. You know, but I think we'll be pretty irresponsible.
Okay, that came up, which I didn't want it to come up. Let me take that out. Okay, anyway, look, this is what I got. Let me do it this way. Can I do this? Bear me for a minute. Hold tight. Okay, so I took let me go, have patience with me. Okay, I'll go right here. Okay, Cambridge Bible for schools and colleges. Let me see. Okay, this is not it. Come back. Doesn't really tell you much. Let me go to news. Let me go to images. Okay, these are a bunch of books. I want that. Let me go to news. An elite Christian college has become the latest battleground in America's cultural wars. Okay, let me see if this is from the Huffington Post. An elite Christian college has become the latest battleground in America's cultural wars. Okay, this was put up a couple of days ago. Okay, the saga that unfolded after professor officiated a same-sex wedding has exposed deep rifts over how the schools treat members of the LGBTQ. Now it's IA. They added 2 more letters to it, community, and how its church interprets the Bible. So they got to reinterpret the Bible now, you know. But it doesn't say whether this is the that particular Bible school. Okay, there's some information here concerning Calvin College, which is named after John Calvin, Christian Reformed Church. Anyway, I'll be all over the place trying to get this information together. Let me come back over here. So I'm thinking that this is just like an online college, but you got the name Cambridge in there, so I think it's based out of Cambridge University. I could be wrong, but I looked it up. I tried. Anyway, this is what I did. I went to Isaiah chapter 14:1. I read that. As a matter of fact, let me come back. Let me come back to that. So I went to Cambridge. It says the immediate result of the judgment of Babylon will be the emancipation of Israel, national Israel, from captivity. In this case, it's talking about Babylon, right? It says, will yet choose Israel, rather, will again choose as formerly in Egypt. Then they give you a precept right here, which I'm not going to go into. The strangers, okay, the sojourners or projected guests here used as in the Hebrew with the same of, I can hardly see that. I believe that's proselytes of Isaiah 56 verses 3-7, Zechariah 2 verse 11, Zechariah 8 verse 20-23. So they didn't really say too much. They said that this is talking about the Babylonian Empire being destroyed, right? Going to the history, that was the Medes under the order of Darius. That's common history. Everybody agrees with that. If you know the Bible, if you know Bible history, if you're a scholar, we all agree on the same thing. We're all on the same page, right? It says the immediate result of the judgment on Babylon will be the emancipation of Israel from captivity. So the Babylonians took down what part of the nation? Took down the 3 tribes. And some of the stragglers from Israel, at the northern kingdom, that went back with the kingdom of Judah because they knew about the order. That's why you have Anna of the tribe of, I believe she's of the tribe of Naphtali, if I'm not mistaken. I got to go to that. Somebody put in the comment section. But it mentions her name. James 1:1 says, greetings to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. So they knew, the apostles knew that the tribes were scattered abroad, up in Europe, parts of Africa. Yahushua's parents fled into Africa at the warning of the angel Gabriel. So it's Pentecost. The people that killed Stephen were Alexandrian Jews. Go back and read it, Acts 7. So these were Israelites that came, with, as a pilgrimage during the time of the Passover, during the time of the tabernacle, and during the time of the Feast of Weeks. So every year they would make those journeys. So these were Jews that there's a large company of Israelites that were living in Egypt, that were keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments. That was going, had temples and, as they call it, synagogues today. Excuse me. Forgive me. So we know that this is not talking about the ancient, Babylon, the first Babylon, because Israel as a kingdom was on the other side of the world. Okay, so either they know what was going on, they know what it means, but they're pretending not to know. But guess what? When you go to the second verse, what does it say? Isaiah 14, verse 2. Let me read it in the blue letter. Isaiah 14, verse 2. And the people shall, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel. Meaning, ultimately, this is about to be fulfilled and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined to them. Now, High Priest Ariel used to say that the strangers are talking about the other nations cleaving to us because they're trying to be us. No, the strangers is talking about other Israelites. You have before I came into this truth, you had men before me that was in this truth. So I would be a stranger that would cleave unto them so I can learn this truth. Men that came in after me were strangers on the other side that eventually became a part of the camp and cleaved unto us. That's what that means. We started, ye were once Gentiles. I'm paraphrasing what the Apostle Paul said to the church of Corinth. And then he goes into a whole rant on, he's talking to the Israelites in Corinth, and he tells them that they're Israel. He said, I'm an Israelite too. So who was he talking to when he was talking to the people of Corinth? He was talking to Israelites that knew that they were Israelites and Israelites that didn't know that they were Israelites coming back in the fold, just like all of us, just like Cornelius. And Cornelius is definitely an Israelite. Now, that's another thing. You go back to 1 West, they taught that Cornelius was an Edomite and that they added to the book because they didn't have the answers. And they said, he was set up to hold the book. The book wasn't even written. The only book that they had was the Tanakh, the Torah, the writings, like Psalms and Ecclesiastes and Song of Solomon. Those are the writings. The law, the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of Moses, and the prophets. And then the Lord, when the Lord came on the scene, he fulfilled what the prophets said all throughout the scriptures. They went into a lot of prophecies, but one prophecy that comes to mind is David. David in Psalm 22, just to give you a scripture, he described what the Lord went through and being hung on the cross, and how dogs were about him. The dogs were the Romans. He called them dogs. So let me read that again. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be. Now, if you do a word search on strangers right here, you however many times it comes up, and you look at the definitions, it's all going to lead to the Israelites being the strangers, because there's one precept where it says when a stranger comes into the land, you got to find him a plot of land based upon the tribe that he's from. That's from this word right here. Let me click on this just so I can prove it to you. Strangers. Okay, the word there is God. Now, normally God can mean, depending on the context of the scripture, it can actually talk about actual nations, or it can be talking about Israelites. So this word, this is how many times? Bear me for a minute. Okay, it occurs 92 times and 83 verses. Out of the King James, right? Genesis 15, verse 10, right? And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a what? A stranger. Who's the seed of Abraham? The Israelites. And this right here, by the way, Genesis 15 and 10 is talking about Egypt. It's not talking about Abraham. It says, you and your seed shall be strangers in a land that is not theirs. Now, Abraham went from Ur the Chaldees to Haran, down past Canaan, which is our land, down into Egypt, okay? And then back out of Egypt. So they didn't go into Egypt until they settled in Egypt when Joseph was a man of age, when he already had his sons. So that's when you hit the clock. Now, this I want to go to this one precept. Bear me for a minute. I believe it's in the book of Ezekiel. I want to make sure before I read it. I'm almost positive it's Ezekiel 47. Could be Ezekiel 22. I'm just proofreading this. Bear with me for a minute. Ezekiel 47, verse 22. And it shall come to pass that ye shall divide it by lot for an inheritance unto you and the strangers. That's talking about we got to give them a lot of land. A lot, L-O-T, of their own land. Let me go a verse or two above that. Prove all things and hold fast to that which is good. You know what? Let me come to the top. Okay, water from the temple, boundaries and divisions of the land. Let's try the 21st verse. So shall ye divide this land unto you according to the tribes of Israel. So it's the subject matter is the tribes of Israel, right? 22nd verse. And it shall come to pass that ye shall divide it by lot for an inheritance. And inheritance means the land. That's what it means, inheritance. The land that you stay on. Unto you and to the strangers, which are Israelites, because we're not going to open the land to actual strangers of another nation, that sojourn among you. So what does it mean by the strangers? Israelites that have lived in other nations for what economic reasons or whatever. Perfect example was the Alexandrian Jews coming 3 times out of the year, and other Israelites around the world. But some of them might say, you know what? They may fall in love with a woman, Israelite woman, which they're Israelite, and they might want to go back to Israel and live there. So what do the seat of Moses, the leadership, do? They come together and they say, okay, you're an Israelite, you're from the tribe of Benjamin. Okay, so now let's go to the land of Benjamin, and we're going to give you a plot. So there was a plots of land laid out for the strangers, the Israelites, and they said, okay, this is going to be your land. That's what that means. It says, and it shall come to pass that ye shall divide it by lot for an inheritance. Like I said, inheritance means the land that we're going to be on. The kingdom is going to be on the land, and what's inside the land, gold, silver, oil, whatever. Unto you and to the strangers, which are Israelites that are from that lived in outside of the land of Israel, that sojourn, travel, you or travel through, you which shall beget children among you, and they shall be unto you as born in the country among the children of Israel, because they are Israelites. They shall have inheritance with you among the tribes of Israel. So we know that this word stranger is not talking about other nations. Because guess what? The other nations just come in, okay, I'll show you that scripture, or give me some land. Let's see what the 23rd verse says. And it shall come to pass that in what tribe of Israel, the stranger a sojourner, which is an Israelite, there shall ye give him his inheritance, saith the Lord power. So now let's go back to Isaiah chapter 14. Where the hell am I? Isaiah 14:1 again. So what does it mean? For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, inheritance. That's what inheritance means. When you go to Amos chapter 9, what is that? Start from the 11th verse, 11, 12 verse. It speaks about the remnant of Edom. It ain't talking about Edomites, although Edomites are going to be our slaves. It's talking about their land. We're going to take those lands back. The lands that we were given is spoken of I just read it, Genesis chapter 15. It's going to be from, matter of fact, let me go to that. I'm sorry. Let me go to it. Because when you're going into these, interpreting these prophetic scriptures, or the scriptures that, whatever scripture, you got to go into detail, man. Sometimes you got to give landmass and dates and certain names. Like Daniel, the 11th chapter is a hard chapter to break down because you have to have maps, you have to have names, you have to have your dates in order, you have to have, there's a lot of people that you have to mention by name if you're going to, interpret, that particular precept right there, that chapter, Daniel 11. Okay, so now, where did I say I was going to go? Okay. I really don't have to go there, but Amos 9. Did I say Amos 9? Getting old. I'm getting old. Well, I mentioned it. Amos 9:11, the restoration of Israel, which is yet to come. And that day will I rise up the tabernacle of David. The tabernacle of David were the Israelites that were living during the generation of David. So we call ourselves the tabernacle of David. The tabernacle of Benjamin was a different house. That's why there was wars between David being the king and the Benjaminites wasn't having it because the first king of Israel, which they acknowledged as the king, so the line that was supposed to be Benjamin was Saul, but he lost a kingdom and it was given unto Judah, which fulfills prophecy. A law given from between thy feet until Shiloh come. Until Shiloh come. What happened before Shiloh came? Judah was sitting on the throne. There was a split. Read about Jeroboam and Rehoboam. And what happened to them after he gathered them to split? They got punished for it by King Shalmaneser. That's your history, man. And all these scholars know that. When you mention these different events that took place in that history in that region of the world, they'll agree with you. Yep, you're right. You're right. That's why we got to think like a scholar. I didn't say you have to be a scholar, but you got to think like one. It says 11. In that day will I rise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen. So how is the tabernacle of David rising up? By us going on the highways and the byways, pushing his word, telling the people that we're Israelites. And only the elect will be gathered. The only ones whose eyes are going to be open, as we know, is the elect, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old, put it in order, that they may possess the remnant of Edom. Now that means, before it's talking about Edom as a people, it's talking about their land, because we're going to take their land. Why? Because Edomites are going to be scattered among Israelites to work as slaves. And we're going to get into that. The elite know that they're going into captivity. The elite know that all the nations are going to bow down to the Israelites. So, if that's the case, then who are them people over there in Israel? That's not a fulfillment of scripture. That's not a fulfillment of scripture. All you got to do is go to Isaiah 2:2, Micah 4:2, and many other scriptures. Isaiah 14. If those were the people and that was the fulfillment of Israel coming back to the land, then people would have to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. You couldn't go out on the Sabbath. You would have to keep the tabernacle the Feast of Tabernacles, and you got to honor the high holy days, because in the kingdom, when the Passover comes, you're not going to work your servants. You're not going to work them. Okay? All high holy days. Now it mentions tabernacles, but all high holy days, none of your servants can work. So they'll be able to rest. You know, they'll be able to, like the Passover, they'll be able to rest that night until that day, which is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is also known as the Passover. And then the rest of the week, they're going to have to work. And then the end of that week, we call it the Passover week, they're not going to work. And then whatever Sabbath you have behind any of those high holy days, the Day of Atonement, they don't got to work. And guess what? They're going to go on the fast. So they're gonna what we're teaching, the whole nations is gonna, all the nations are gonna have to learn. They're gonna have to come up under what we're saying through the power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. And it's evident, man. And you can't stop it. You can't stop this train. Vocab Malone, you cannot stop this train. Hey, Vocab did a recent video. I didn't see it. He said, how did the video go? What was the title? It says, an apologist has to be like a pit bull, something to that effect. Now, where's that in the scriptures? What I know from the scriptures is, be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Be sheep in the midst of wolves. I never seen sheep with AR-15s or Glock 9s on their chest. Because people ain't gonna jump up in your face if they see that you got a guy on either side, like bookends, with a high-powered assault rifles. You ain't cutting. Sheeps don't do that. That's not how they roll. All right. So when Vocab made that statement or did that video, he said you got to be a pit bull with this apologetics thing. No, the scriptures don't say that. It says, be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. All right. It says, we are sheep in the midst of wolves. So any Israelites that say, we're going to take down this man, this, that, and that, well, the Apostle Paul said that in Romans chapter 13, the first couple of verses. And then you got people that say, well, that's talking about obey the government. Whatever the government says, you got to obey them. No, that's not true. It says don't come against the government, because the Most High set this government up just like he set up the Egyptians and Babylonians and Syrians. It was all set up. You were all taken down based upon the fulfillment of prophecy. So this is the last captivity we're gonna be in. It says, 11th verse again, in that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen. And High Priest Yeshua used to say, well, that's talking about the tribe of Judah. No, it ain't talking about the tribe of Judah. It's talking about the generation that was with David. Talking about the generation that was with David. Now I did a video on what did I title? The Apostle Peter and King David. And in that video, I said the Apostle Peter is definitely King David coming back. Because in the kingdom, David is going to sit on throne number 1. And guess what? The Lord told Peter he's going to sit on throne number 1. And Peter, upon this rock, which is Peter, that's why he called him Peter. And the word in the Hebrew is kap. It means rock or stone, loosely translated stone or rock, which is a foundation. He said, and to Peter and to Simon Bar Jonah, you're the rock, and upon you I will build this church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. So what was he saying? He was confirming what David was going to do. Because our Lord obviously knew that Peter was David. Because the Lord, he knew all the disciples and who they were. He didn't tell them who they were. The only time he mentioned somebody that was reincarnated as somebody else was during the time of when he mentioned John the Baptist being Elijah. And then he said, as I always go into Matthew chapter 17, he mentioned Elijah coming back again. So the Lord in Matthew 11 and Matthew 17, in Matthew 11, he mentioned him as being John. That's John. In Matthew 17, he said he's going to come, but he already came. So he's going to come 2 times. He's going to come as John, and then he's going to come back as Abba. And Abba Bivens is definitely in the spirit. If you have ears to hear, if you have eyes to see, spiritual eyes to see, you will see it. And people that can't see it, the Most High didn't open up your eyes. Abba is definitely through the spirit. That's Elijah coming back. When I first came to school, I saw pictures in the back of the school, and I saw Abba Bivens. I saw 2 pictures, Abba Bivens by himself with a gigantic Torah, and then I saw another picture with High Priest Ariel as a 12-year-old boy, really man, coming into manhood, because he was bar mitzvahed at that time, sitting right next to Abba Bivens. So I didn't know who that was, and I said, who's this guy here? I said, this guy looks just like Elijah. That's what I said. And I didn't say, oh, that's Elijah. I said, he looks like Elijah. In my mind, coming into this truth, in my mind was this: if they were to make a movie and they needed a guy to play Elijah, he that looks like Elijah. I don't know why I said it at the time. Then it was a couple of people heard it, and they went back to Ariel and they said, you know what this man said? He said that he looked at Abba and he said, that's Elijah. He said, it looked like Elijah. And Ariel kind of gave me that look, like when you see a ghost, he gave me that look, oh my goodness, that's a spiritual guy. All right. So, Vocab Malone, you're doing videos, you got all the information on Abba. That's Elijah. That's Elijah. So it says, in that day will I raise up the tabernacle or the house, the people, the generation of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and will raise up his ruins. And the ruins meaning what? We went into captivity after captivity, right? It said, ye and your king shall go into captivity, right? Deuteronomy 28:36. King singular, we know we had more than one king, right? That king was David. That king was David. It says, and I will build it as in the days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom, which is the land. When you click on the word Edom, one of the definitions is the land of Edom, and of all the heathen, all the lands which are called by my name, saith the Lord that doeth this. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper. I went to this before. The plowman is us, the people, slaves working in the field. The reaper is what? The one that reaps the benefit, which is Esau. So we went into hardcore slavery, yoke of iron upon our neck, slave ships, the whole 9. When we got over here, what did they do? They sold us in auction, on in auctions. They split up families. They took our children away, and they put us out in the field. So we became what? Among other things, we became plowmen. So it said the plowman, which is a slave, shall overtake the reaper, the one that reaps the benefits, which is Esau. We're going to take them over, and we're going to put them into captivity. So now let's come back over here. Verse 2, right? And the people shall take them. Now the them is talking about the other nations. We're going to see that. And bring them in their place, which is Israel, and scatter them around the world, because we're going to be all around the world. The headquarters is going to be the land of Israel or Palestine. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were. You can't get around that. Were we captives under the Syrians? They're going to be our captives up under us. Were we captives under the Babylonians? They're going to be captives up under us. Were we captives under the Egyptians, the so-called Egyptians, Mizraim? They're going to be captives under us. The last nation that put us into captivity are the Edomites. So are the Edomites going into captivity? They're going into captivity. Yeah, I had some, what do you call this? Apple cider vinegar. 1 part apple cider vinegar to about maybe 10 parts, 15 parts of spring water, essential water. So it makes you cough up, stuff. It forces that stuff out of your system. Okay, so it says, and they shall take them captives whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Now we know the rest of it, right? 3rd verse. And it shall come to pass in that day the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve. Now this is what we're doing right now, the 4th verse. That thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how have the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The golden city is the daughter of Babylon. And let me look up the word proverb. Then I'm gonna go back to the Cambridge for Bibles in schools. Okay, proverb. The word there in the Hebrew is mashal, proverb, parable. A parable is a mystery until it's broken down to you, right? So we're giving them the mystery, but we're telling them what the mystery is. We're breaking down what all the scriptures say, the prophetic scriptures I'm focusing on. Proverb, proverbial, saying, adorism, byword, similitude, parable, poem, sentences of ethical wisdom, ethical maxims. So it's not just about knowing that you were Israelite. The Most High is dealing with the prophets. the most important man to the Most High on the earth is the prophet, which is the elect. And their job is not to go back to Africa, not to go back to Israel. Ain't nobody, vocab's not talking about them people over there in Israel now, the people of, what's this guy? How do you say his name? Benny Carter. No, that's the other guy, Yahweh Ben Yahweh. Ben Amin, back in the late 60s, early 70s, 68, 69, 70, they said, we got to go back to the promised land. Now, they first went to Africa, somewhere in West Africa, then eventually they went to Israel. And there's got to be at least, the population over there has got to be, because we're talking about 4 or 5 generations of Israelites over there. So there has to be, I wouldn't be surprised if there's 1 million. I don't know the exact number. I can look at it later. I'm not going to look at it now. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was 1 million Jakes over there. But guess what? Ain't nobody talking about them because they're not a threat, even though they're in the land. And they're Old Testament only Israelites. They don't believe in the New Testament. The focus of Israelites are the so-called former one Westers. Why? Because we're fulfilling chapter 3. I mean, verse 3, Isaiah 14, verse 3. And it shall come to pass, and it is happening right now. It's coming to pass as I speak, in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve. That thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, meaning Babylon itself, the daughter of Babylon, and say, how hath the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased? The Yahweh have broken the staff of the wicked. The staff represents their power, their rulership, and the scepter of the rulers. They were rulers by way of what? World reserve currency, which they call the petrodollar. But now you have these other alliances that are breaking away. They're no longer doing deals, with NATO and the EU and the US and Canada. So there's a split. If Satan be divided against Satan, it cannot stand. The split is there, man. The Russians ain't stopping for shit. Okay, he smote the people with and wrath for the continued stroke. He that ruleth the nations, right? He didn't just take us down, he took down the whole, which the word is colonize. He colonized the whole world. Any nation that you go to, Esau then took it over. He then took over Japan, and then took over. He modernized Japan. He told Japan, you have to modernize. I believe that's the first industrial revolution or the second. I got to go into it. But Esau's job was to modernize the world. So, you know what I got to do? Please forgive me. I'm going to have to go left. And let me see. No, I'm not going to do it. I'll look at it up later. I'm going too far left. But when you go into the history, the Most High set up Esau to modernize the world, but ultimately, what was the Lord going to give him? This technology, which will ultimately boil down to the charagma, in which you have smart cities, and the cherry on the top of the sundae is to make you a part of the smart city, the internet of everything. Because you don't need a wallet, you don't need money, because everything's gonna be digital. You know what I'm talking about, Revelation 13. So it's the Most High that put the spirit on Esau, as we know, to take over the whole world. You go to Africa, the influence of Africa is a white man. A white man that colonized Africa through Great Britain. Esau then colonized India. Watch the movie Gandhi. Read about Gandhi. What was that about? Rebelling against the English. And eventually they got out. And then after World War II, I'm going into some quick history. The world reserve currency came out of what? Great Britain. After World War III, what was that? The Bretton Woods Conference. Let me go to the Bretton Woods Conference. To give you a little quick history. See if I Bretton Woods. Bretton Woods Agreement. Let's deal with that. Bretton Woods Agreement. The Bretton Woods Agreement establishes a system through which a fixed currency exchange rate could be created using gold as the universal standard. But then what did Nixon do in 71? He took the gold, he severed the gold from the dollar because these other nations wanted their gold back. Okay. So he said, well, we're not under gold. And what happened? That opened the door for what? A thing called inflation. That's why prices are going up. Prices not really going up as the value of the dollar is going down because it's not a standard. Now it went from the world reserve currency. As a matter of fact, let me do this. World reserve currency. It says the dollar, right? The dollar is still the world's reserve, dominant reserve currency, right? In 2019, 62% of official governmental bank foreign exchange reserves were in dollars, with the euro second at, what is that, 20%? The yen. Well, anyway, this is all we need. All we need is, what is the world reserve currency? The dollar, which now these people are breaking off from the dollar. Why is the US dollar the world reserve currency? Let me look that up real quick. The United States dollar has been the world's premier reserve currency for over 60 years. Under the Bretton Woods, I just went to that, under the Bretton Woods system, the dollar was pegged to gold, and most other currencies were pegged to the dollar because it was based upon a gold standard. But guess what? Like I said a couple of minutes ago, Nixon closed the door on that. That's why at one time you can buy a suit, a nice suit that now might be $2,000. That same suit back in like 1930, 1920, that same suit, you would all you need, like a top suit out there, that would be $2,000, $2,500 today with $20 gold certificate. So inflation, because it's not backed by gold, that's why the price is going up and people don't understand it. Somebody read James chapter 5, and it breaks it down. It tells you in James chapter 5 how they're going to start understanding how they took an advantage of them by way of fraud. It mentions the word fraud. People are understanding that you might have $100,000 in the bank that you put in there 10 years ago. And guess what? That $100,000 in the bank right now, if you're lucky, is probably worth about 50,000 because of higher prices. And the average person doesn't understand it. When they said, oh, this is a temporary inflationary that inflation that we're experiencing. And I knew it wasn't temporary. You know how I knew? Because they're going to keep the printing press going. They're going to keep the digits going. And ultimately, this dollar is going to crash, and they're going to introduce to you central bank digital currency, right? CBDC, central bank digital currency. In order for you to use it, buy or sell, you got to get the charagma. And you're going to find out that the men of Great Millstone had it correct the whole time. So now these other camp leaders, these other camps out there, they're going to have to explain it to their people. As a result of this agreement, dollars were used as the main intervention currency, and hence a reserve currency, but now it's known as the petrodollar. In other words, if China wants to buy oil from Iran, they would have to take their yuan or the renminbi, which means the people's money, and they would have to turn it into Federal Reserve notes, and buy the oil from Iran with Federal Reserve notes. So guess what? Any money system that they had to first exchange it to federal dollars in order to make exchanges, import, export, buy, sell. So now you got the BRICS nations, right? Which now you got ultimately two members. Let's watch the news. Iran is one of them. Ezekiel 38 should come to mind. And Argentina, which is a South American country, which are Israelites, they're joining it, right? And don't be surprised if Venezuela is looking behind the scenes is looking to join that alliance. So you have two alliances, NATO, EU, which consists of America and Canada for NATO, and then you got the BRICS nations, which other nations are joining nations, the BRIC nations. And what are they doing? They're using their own money system. They have to use the Federal Reserve still, but they're slowly pulling out of it. And what is that going to ultimately cause? It's going to cause Armageddon, World War III. So that's what we're waiting for. Now I went all the way left. Let me get back into this. Right, he who smote the people in wrath for the continued stroke. He that ruled the nations, all the nations. He colonized all these nations, these great nations. That's how they became rich. In anger is persecuted and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest. When is the whole earth going to be at rest? When the kingdom comes. So this is a transition. Esau is the end of the world. Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, which is a transition, a change of worlds. As the book Abba put together, a change of worlds. What is a change of world? Esau is going down incrementally, and Jake is coming up. You got Jakes that are loyal, man. You got a lot of educated Jakes out there. You got a lot of these so-called what you call Toms. They really don't like Esau behind the scenes, man. Anyway, let me come back to this. Okay, so now let's go here. Second verse, right? All I got to read is the Cambridge. They didn't say too much because they know something. I may go to I really don't have to. And by the way, these are different churches, let's say, different, this Eliot's commentary is different from this commentary. This commentary, Benson's commentary is different from Pope's commentary. Matthew Henry's commentary is different from Kell and DeLeach, whatever Bible commentary. So they don't agree. So this is not true Christianity. What did the Apostle Paul say? That you all speak the same thing. They ain't speaking the same thing. So Cambridge Bible for Schools and Colleges and the people, okay, and peoples, Isaiah 49, verse 22. This is a small letter, so let me do this. Isaiah 49, verse 22. Isaiah 49. Isaiah 49, 22. Thus saith the Lord power, behold, I will lift up mine hand to the Gentiles and set up my standard, that's Isaiah 2 and 2, to the people, and they shall bring thy sons in their arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulder. Now you watch some ancient movies, Cleopatra, she was up on this golden platform, and they had slaves carrying her like it was four big strong guys. You know, one, you know, he had two in the front and two in the back, and they would carry her and they would let her down slow. Well, that's what's going to happen in the kingdom. It says, and kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their faces toward the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet, and thou shalt know that I, Yahweh, for that thou shalt know that I am the power, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. Excuse me, I'm putting words in my mouth. It says, shall the prey be taken from the mighty, or the lawful captives delivered? 25th verse. But thus saith Yahweh, even the captives of the mighty shall be taken away, and the prey of the terrible, which is Esau at this time, be delivered, for will contend with him that contendeth with thee, and I will save thy children, which are the Israelites. And I will feed them that oppress thee with their own flesh. Because ultimately, what is it saying in second Ezra, the 15th chapter? They're going to go up into the mountains and mountain preppers. They're going to run out of food, and they're going to wind up eating their bodies. They're going to be eating their children's bodies. If the wife died, they're going to eat the body. That's featured in the movie The Road, where the main character and his son, the wife said, she just said, I'm going to go out in the woods. He said, because if they catch us, talking about those marauders, they're gonna kill you. They're gonna kill my son, which is a woman talking, and they're gonna take me. They're gonna rape me. Then they're gonna kill me, and then they're gonna eat me. Watch the movie The Road, and that's like in the first 10 to 15 minutes of the movie. That movie makes you think, and they didn't even tell you what happened that changed the whole world. You know, it was up to you to think what might happen. What had happened? Was it a nuclear explosion? What the hell happened? Something happened in the movie. They didn't tell you what it was. It says, and they shall be drunken with their own blood. Go back to 2nd Ezra chapter 15. They're going to drink their blood for very thirst. They're going to eat their flesh for very hunger. 2nd Ezra 15, around about the 50th verse on down. As with sweet wine, and all because they're going to have nothing to eat. There's not going to be leaves on the tree. There's not going to be grass on the ground because they're going to eat the grass off the ground. They're going to eat the leaves. The bugs are going to be gone. They're going to clean the bugs out. The small animals ain't going to come around them. So they're going to go to eating each other. So it's going to get nasty out here very quickly. And you see what's happening with these food processing companies, let's say, fires, major fires, planes crash, and the average person, they don't know what's going on. They're just going on a business as usual. We see everything coming down the pike. The scriptures speak about watching, man. Well, the Most High set us up to be watchers, right? To warn the people. We've been warning them for years about the charagma. And all flesh shall know that I am the Lord, am thy Savior and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Yahweh, which is Israel. So I got this from where? I got this from right here. Cambridge Bible for Schools and Colleges. So they know. They know what's going to happen. They know that the Israelites are going to be raised up and the other nations are going to be at our feet. I'm almost finished. It says, shall possess them, right? Serve themselves heirs to them. Who's going to serve themselves heirs to them? The them are Israel. The ones that's going to serve themselves are the other nations, starting number one on the list. Psalms 83 is the Edomites. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. It says Leviticus 25, verse 46. I'm not going to go into that. For the idea of chapters Isaiah 61 and 10, 60 and 10, 60 and 14, and Isaiah 61 and 5. So we're going to read those. You know what? They shall take them captives whose captive they were. You know what I got to do? Now, I didn't even realize this. Judges 5 and 12. I'm going to go to Judges 5 and 11. You already know what it says. Okay, it says, awake Deborah, awake, awake. Utter a song and arise, Barak, and lead thy captivity captive, thou sons of Abinom. This is what I wanted. They that are delivered from the noise of the archers, which are the missiles, in the place of drawing water, which is slavery. If you go to Joshua, they made these Canaanites that lied to them. They made an oath that they wouldn't kill them, but they found out they were lying. And you got to go to the story. And what they did was they said, we made a vow that we wasn't going to kill you, but we're going to put you to slavery. And they said, we're going to make you hewers of wood and drawers of water. I'm not going to go to it. That's in the book of Joshua. There shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord. Where are we rehearsing the righteous acts of the Lord? In America. In Rome, we were able to openly keep the laws. That's us coming back all over again. That's Ezekiel 37. The bones came together. The breath is what? The breath is what? The rehearsing the righteous acts. So now let's come back over here. So they gave me the right precepts. So now let's go to Isaiah 60, verse 10, Isaiah 60, verse 14, and Isaiah 61, verse 5. That's why you have no business allowing a vocab on your platform, man. You know? The same goes for Sonetta. You got these jakes letting this guy come on your platform. He ain't telling you nothing to benefit you. You really got to read the whole chapter. Isaiah 60, verse 10, and the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls. That's slavery. The strangers are talking about the other nations. And their kings shall minister unto thee. That's slavery. So these kings are going to go to a level of they're going to be vassals and serfs under us. We're going to be the overlords. Smote thee, but in thy favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore, thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not, this is in the kingdom, and the kingdom is going to be on the earth, be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles. What are the forces of the Gentiles? Let's look it up. Let's see what the Hebrew word. Well, let's see what the Hebrew word is. Forces. Forces. The word is kayal. Strength, might, efficiency, wealth, army, strength, ability, efficiency, wealth, force, army. The forces is talking about whatever they have, their gold, their silver, their precious stones, whatever they have, plus their lands. Amos 9 and 12. The remnant of Edom is talking about we're going to take their land. Lengthen thy cords, Isaiah 54, starting from the first couple of verses. Lengthen thy cords, spare not. Okay, so let's come back over here. '11th verse. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually. The Cambridge for Bibles in schools, they're saying that this is a future prophecy, but they're saying that it's talking about after the ancient pagan Babylonian Empire. No, it's not. Because guess what? What happened? We were put into slavery again under the Medo-Persian empires. So that's not talking about that. Isaiah chapter 14, the whole chapter is talking about what's getting ready to happen. And the king of Babylon is Esau. And that Babylon is talking about the new Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, that great city, which is mentioned in the book of Revelation. It says, continually they shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee their wealth, the Gentiles' wealth, and that their kings may be brought. And what? In chains. That's in Isaiah, what is that? Isaiah 45 talks about Ham, 45 and 13, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can put in the comment section. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. They're going to be put to death, destroyed. Yeah, those nations shall be utterly wasted. And that's also in Zechariah 14. 13 verse, the glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, and the fir tree, the pine tree, and the box together to beautify the place of my sanctuary. Sanctuary meaning holy place, which the headquarters is going to be out of Palestine, and the whole world is going to go back to being a joy again, a paradise. And this is the Most High's footstool. Heaven is my throne, earth is my footstool. And I will make the place of my feet, there it is. Heaven is my throne and earth is my footstool. So it's talking about the earth, glorious, the whole earth. You ain't gonna have plastic in the oceans. All that's gonna be cleaned up. Esau then made a fine mess out of this planet Earth. He made the earth into a wilderness. You know, you got enough. They had a report. They said you got enough microplastic in you to produce a credit card every week. So we got a lot of plastic in our system. That's why we got these ailments and these sicknesses. That's why we always coughing up shit. Who do you thank? The Esau. So the Most High is going to have to change our bodies because these bodies are all messed up, man. 14 verse, the sons also them that afflicted thee. It's not these people, these Edomites afflicting us even to this point, not as bad as they did back in slavery. But we're still afflicted because we got to pay bills. It tells you in the Baruch, we are, what is it? It talks about payments. We're subject to payments. You got to pay taxes. You got to pay this bill. You park the car. You got to put money in the meter. You don't put money in the meter, 25 cents in the meter. You're going to get a ticket for $50. And if you get enough tickets, they come and tow your car away. Then you got to pay the tow fee, the sheriff fee. So if it was $500, by the time you pay for that goddamn car, it's going to be over $1,000. That's affliction, man. We are subject under payments. We are those people. And then what they did, they said, let's do it to our own people, because you got a lot of Edomites catching hell from Edomites at the policies of super rich Edomites. So they're looking at this thing as a class thing now. So you Edomites that are on the bottom, guess what? You're two-time losers. When you come back in the kingdom, you're gonna be on the bottom again. You're on the bottom in your own kingdom. Ain't that a bitch? That's why you had them gangsters, Edomite gangsters back in the 30s and the 20s, the roaring 20s. Them motherfuckers said, look, we ain't got no money, we ain't got nothing, we're gonna rob and steal for it, man. And a lot of them gangsters became rich and their children are doing well. 14 verse, and the sons also of them that afflicted thee, what is that talking about, vocab alone, shall come bending unto thee. And then vocab, when he came and confronted us, I asked for a book and he bowed down, and that's on the video, and he bowed down and he gave me the book. So, he already knows through the spirit, and he better hope like hell he's an Israelite, or at least a light-skinned Hamite. You don't want the last thing you want to be is an Edomite. That's something that you don't want to be. If you can't be an Israelite, like Balaam said, he said, at the end of when everything's said and done, I wish I could be an Israelite. That's what he said. Read it in Numbers, the 23rd chapter, start from the 9th verse. And then he also said in the 24th chapter, he cursed Balak. He said, look, let me tell you what these people are going to do in the last days, because the Most High gave me this vision. They're going to destroy you. They're going to destroy all the neighbors round about, which includes Edom, the Philistines, all of them, ultimately. So what did he see? He saw the destruction. He saw the angels coming down. The angel them, inside joke. The sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and all they that despise thee, they hate us. Remember the king of Esau, the Edomite king, Moses, when they went to the wilderness, after the 40 years, they had to go to the promised land, so they had to go through the land of Edom. And Moses asked the king of Edom, he's called him brother. He said, can we go through the king's highway and we'll pay toll for it? And if we drink any water, we'll pay for it. And the king of Edom said no. So that's that everlasting hatred. In what is that? Ezekiel 35. It says, and all they that despise thee, deep hatred, shall bow themselves down at the soles of thy feet, and they shall call thee the city of the Lord. Who are they going to call the city of the Lord? The Israelites. If the people of Israel, the city of Israel or Jerusalem, or the new Jerusalem, is a people before it's a place. You have the people first, then you have the place. It says the city of Yahweh, the Zion, the monument of the Holy One of Israel, national Israel. I mean, you can read the rest of it. Oh, let me read 15. Whereas thou has been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through thee, meaning, Esau's not gonna go to the hood and hang out in the hood. They're gonna go someplace else. They're not gonna be around you because that's a lower standard of living. Wherever you live in the hood, it says Judah and Israel shall be pressed together. Go anywhere in the hood in America, you're gonna have Judah, you're gonna have them Latin tribes. You're gonna have mostly all the tribes. Some of them West Indian tribes, Gadites. You should see how Gadites are living on the reservation, man. And you gonna tell me that they're not the Israelites? So Esau doesn't go when they go to the real estate. They'll tell them, well, you don't want to live here. You don't want to live because your property value will go down. Ain't that a bitch? You can have a nice house, build a nice house from scratch, but if you're in the middle of the hood, or even like a lower middle class, working class area, your property value goes down. When you go to Edomite neighborhood, the property value goes up. They got a saying, when Jake moves in, what do they say? There goes a neighborhood. So they're saying that when Jake moves in, more Jakes are gonna come through, and then the neighborhood's gonna go down. But in the kingdom, it's gonna be spiritually flipped around. I had to use that for my man. It says, whereas thou hast been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through thee. Every time in the hood, I see it. If you see an Edomite with a suit on walking through the hood, you know he's coming to damn arrest somebody or serve papers on that person, or getting ready to buy that building that you're living in. And then you say in your mind, oh, boy, they're going to double the rent. I will make thee an eternal excellence. What does the word eternal mean? It means everlasting excellency. So the elder Lahab made a statement that after 1,000 years of the kingdom, Esau is going to come back into power and take us down. Well, wait a minute. Then this scripture can't be fulfilled. Eternal excellency, a joy of many generations. Let's look up the word eternal. These words appear so small to me. Okay, eternal. Let's see what eternal means. Ayawalam. When you say the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew, at the end of the prayer, you come across the word ayalam, which means everlasting, forever, long duration, antiquity, futurity, forever, ever, everlasting, evermore, perpetual, old, ancient, because we're ancient people. World, ancient times, long time, past, forever, always, continuous existence, perpetual. Perpetual means it doesn't stop. If you know anything about a real Rolex, got the fake bootleg Rolex and got the real ones. You know how you can tell the difference between a fake Rolex and a real one? The real Rolex has what's called perpetual, oyster perpetual, where it doesn't make a ticking movement. It just moves. It just flows. That's how you know. And that's Swiss. What do you call that? Swiss mechanics, whatever you call it. The Swiss are masters in making watches, and they mastered the art of perpetual, oyster perpetual. Look it up. It says everlasting, indefinite, without an end. Isaiah 45, world without end, right? or unending future eternity. So Esau is not going to rise up and take us down 1,000 years into the kingdom, because the Lord, the Most High, the Spirit of the Lord is going to be among us. Revelation 21. So now let me go to one more precept that the Cambridge brought up was Isaiah. Let me do it this way. I mean, this is no big deal. We already know these precepts. But you got to constantly go through these, interpreting these prophecies. Let me go right to the point. You can start the first verse. Okay, by the way, this is what our Lord and Savior read in the temple in Luke 4, and they attempted to throw him off the mountain. He said to proclaim liberty to the captives and so forth, the brokenhearted, blind. He have sent me to the blind, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound. So we were bound at that time. We were bound by the Roman Empire. This is the second leg of the Roman Empire. So ultimately, what's going to happen? This is getting ready to happen. And they shall build. Should I go back? Let me see. Okay. And they shall build the old waste. They shall rise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities, because after the destruction and desolations of many generations, many wars, and strangers, now right here, strangers is talking about the other nations, shall, starting with Esau, shall stand and feed your flocks. And the sons of the alien strangers shall be your plowmen. Then we read in Amos 9, the plowman shall overtake the reaper. And when the plowman overtakes a reaper, the one that reaps the benefits, he's going to make the reaper, the one that reaps the benefits, the plowman. So it says here, and the sons of the alien shall be your plowman and your what? And your wine dressers. They're going to be working out in the field. But ye shall be named the priests of the Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of the Most High, Isaiah 2, verse 2, Micah 4, verse 2. Ministers of the Most High, because we're going to be priests and kings. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, meaning we're going to take what they have, their resources, and then their glory, because you're going to take it from them. It was once yours, it's going to be them, yours again. And in their glory, your glory, shall ye boast yourself. So we're gonna be talking shit in the kingdom, man. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say shalom.